Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of No Strings Attached. Today, I have a pleasure of welcoming Simon Bartram into the show. Simon, thank you for coming.
Bogdan, it's a pleasure. This is going to be fun. Look forward to spending some time with you. It's been a long time.
Oh, 100%. This is kind of the whole reason why I started this podcast, because we as coaches, we are so busy with our work, we don't have a lot of time to hang out anymore. And, so hopefully this gives a chance to not only for us to hang out, but maybe for other coaches who are listening to this or watching this to, be part of conversation and just feel like they're, just hanging out with us.
Yeah, I like it. It brings the community together. It's nice.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the whole point of it. Listen, speaking about the community, you've been part of this community for a really long time, and you've been influencing and empowering not only high-level players, all kinds of players for that matter, and also coaches. And really excited to talk to you about all of this today. And I really want to start with the beginning and how you got into tennis. If you can just tell us a short story about it.
How I got into tennis? Yeah, I'll try to make it short. I got into tennis. I was dragged. I was dragged. I went to the tennis. My mom played tennis, and when I was young, my mom couldn't leave me at home, so she took me. She played league tennis in Mississauga. I was born in the UK. We moved to Mississauga when I was like 7 or 8 years old, 7 years old. And she played tennis in the league there, and tennis was booming. It was the 70s and all this stuff, and so I kind of got into it there, got introduced to the sport there. She'd hit with me after her league matches. I'd be playing in the sandbox or something. And that's kind of how I started. And then we moved to Burlington. I was always kind of feel like a lot of my stuff has been like just good fortune. We moved to Burlington. I grew up in Burlington, Ontario, and then I started to play, and we lived across the street from a tennis club, Tyndagger Tennis Club, and I played tennis there, and there was a guy there by the name of Ari Novik, who, as you know, became the head of Tennis Canada coaching certification for many years.
Yes.
Ends up becoming my best friend. He and I would beat each other up on those courts every day, all summer. And then we got into tournaments, started competing, doing all that kind of stuff. And then 1976, Pierre Lamarche comes to Burlington and starts All-Canadian Tennis Academy. The first year, and myself and Ari, Marianne Grote, became an Olympic and Grand Slam tennis player, and a few others. Started to play there with Pierre, and he was starting his academy, and we just went from there and just kind of grew and grew. And I played junior tennis, played national level tennis, played college tennis from there, and just kind of went. I mean, that was the genesis of it. And as I said, like super good fortune.
Yeah. For somebody who doesn't know, if you were to go to Ace Burlington, you could see some pictures like from from way back, and somebody actually, I was there and I had no idea. Somebody pointed out a picture and said, "Do you know who that is?" I'm like looking, I'm like, I have no idea who that is. That's Simon Bartram. I was like, no way.
The hair's the giveaway, man. The big hair. Yeah, there would be Ari in there, myself, and I mean, my goodness, Cedar Springs when we went was only a few years old, and it was nothing like it is now. Everyone in the tennis community appreciates that place and what it has meant for tennis in Canada, for all Canadian becoming Ace Tennis. And it was a restaurant, a reception area, 2 locker rooms, and 8 indoor tennis courts, and that was it. And I would couldn't wait to get out of high school. I'd take the bus down. I'd be there every afternoon with Ari. He would force us to hitchhike from Guelph Line to the club, and I'd be like, "Come on, man, we're not going to get a ride. It's only like 2 hours walk, and we'd find." So I'd start walking, and I'd get there, and by the time I got there, he'd already gotten there because he got a ride with somebody. So back in the day when you could hitchhike.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so you had a career as a player, and then what made you become a coach? Like, what was the interest in coaching?
Again, just being around great people. So I played college tennis, played at Ole Miss for 4 years, played professionally for about 2 years after that. It did okay. I don't even know, 500 in the world ranking, something like that, whatever. It was just but it wasn't. It was like it was a grind, and I wasn't really prepared for the travel and the grind to invest any more time. It was, and so I just kind of slid into the coaching world. My degree in finance didn't help me one bit in my coaching, but I moved into that. Ari was already in London, Ontario, with All Canadian in London, and I ended up staying there for a year and looking after the program there, while it then transitioned to Toronto. And I, again, went straight into that program with Pierre and Ari, All Canadian moving to then the old National Centre site on York University campus.
Yeah.
And got into the coaching there. Ari was a great mentor. Pierre Lamarche, a remarkable mentor.
Those are great mentors to have. Like
I
those
mean,
names are- wow.
again, just had great people. Louis
Yeah.
Caillet.
Wow.
Louis was spending a lot of time there then as well. Getting the coaching certification up to speed in Canada, and did so much at the genesis of all that, and it became something that a system and a language that was coveted worldwide after a while. And so anyway, that's where I kind of that's how I gravitated into coaching.
What did you like the most about it?
I like that it's like I never stop learning. I like that. I like that you're usually around people who are really motivated and passionate about something, and you just feed off that energy. I love seeing kids, adults for that matter, where I am now, get better, and appreciating that they can get better almost at any age. No matter how you kind of want to, whatever you want to emphasize and move them in whatever direction you want to move to, they can get better. And so, yeah, I love seeing all that, and I love the passion of high performance, and I've been very, very fortunate, even despite being here at the Toronto Tennis Club for a long time, that the club has allowed me to stay involved in that in so many different facets. So I'm truly blessed with that.
No, for sure. I was gonna bring it up because you've been at Toronto Lawn for like 34 years, something like that.
34 years,
and it's impressive how you still were able to work with the, and I'm 100% forgetting a few names, but like Catherine Sibov, you worked with Kayla Cross, over the time. So it's like those are big time names, like they're playing like for Canada, representing Canada on multiple stages, and that's amazing that the club sees the importance of that, recognizes that. And we'll talk about private clubs and high performance and how lately it's been changing, I think, like because more private clubs want to develop their own high performance programs. We'll talk about that later, but I just want to go back to your coaching, and like as you were, first of all, around such great names, all the names you're mentioning there, again, just like to have them as mentors is fantastic. But I want to talk about your philosophy and how it evolved over the years, because I'm sure what you believed in maybe, when you started compared to when you got really experienced to maybe compared even now. Sorry, my cat is trying to bite my hand as I'm articulating here. But how, can you maybe just walk us through your philosophy, like how it evolved, and what are the things that changed the most in what you believe?
I think the biggest thing from my philosophy is kind of tied into what you just said. I mean, I feel like I'm always learning, and I am always evolving. There's no question about that. I've never felt like I've got the answer, I've got the drill, I've got the exercises, you'll get better because of this. It never. How I would teach 30 years ago is very different than how I would teach now. No question. And I can remember different conversations I've had with different coaches as I continued on this journey, and you asked me the same question 20 years ago, and you asked me now, and I would answer it differently, no question about it, based on what I've learned, based on what I feel like is more important. I feel like now and maybe in 10 years, if I'm still doing this, you'll ask me again, and it'll be different than this answer. So
awesome. We'll have another podcast about it.
We'll do it again. We'll see how I'm doing. I feel like it's look, it's human being first, athlete second, tennis player third. And I feel that's just really important to never forget that. And we as coaches tend to easily default to things that are easy to do and give a technical message, whatever. And yet we both know, working with the athletes you've worked with as well, at the level they played at, the answers don't always lie there, and you need to have enough knowledge and enough connection to be able to draw on the emotional side of things, the mental aspect, just making sure that tactics are a part of things. All those things that you get, stay away from technical stuff, and you can and you get your human being and your athlete to get there a lot faster. So that's sort of where I feel like I am now. Yeah, but as I said, like an evolution of me doing the things that I keep on doing and being around good people. And they just, I listen, I share, I continue to be involved with the Coach 3 course for as long as I've been doing that, because I feel like it just keeps me fresh, and I get to be around great candidates that are passionate and they pass on great information, and I steal their ideas.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with you that being part of the coaching certification keeps you like sharp. And I just joined it this year as an instructor course facilitator. But even the revisiting instructor course made me so much better at coaching, because I was like, oh wow, okay, that's right, you know. So you're kind of doing things without understanding it, but then once you start breaking it down and you see other coaches do it and you actually coach other coaches, you're like, oh wow, that's amazing. So it's like I completely understand where you're coming from.
It's true, that element of like when you have to explain it from a different and you have to explain it to a coach, what you kind of intuitively know, you really appreciate it after. You go, wow, that's powerful, and I got to make sure that you have to know your stuff to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Let's go back though for a second to what you said. I think it's very important that human first, athlete second, tennis player third. So can you elaborate a little bit? Can we just go a little bit deeper into like, what do you put in human? Like, what does that mean, human first, to you?
Well, I mean, I feel like tennis is a remarkably stressful sport, not only for an 11 and 12-year-old. I would argue it might be more stressful for a junior tennis player in their early years, in their adolescent years, than it might even be for a tennis professional. Because the stresses are just the same. They are no different, but you have no skills to deal with them. So there needs to be an element of compassion and empathy for that child as they're going through expectations of having to perform, having to win matches for whatever that might be, my UTR rating, my ranking, my all that stuff, which is so toxic to a player's development. And that's the human being element, right? And I've spoken to many players after they've gone through the full gamut of playing junior tennis to transitioning to college to maybe playing pro to what it was. Junior tennis was super stressful for them. Yeah. And I feel like that's why so many quit and so many look for excuses to get out, because it's like, I can't do this. This is crazy. Yeah. And if they don't have a support system behind them to help the person, the human being, deal with it. So that's the first part. And because I don't think I really appreciated that 25, 30 years ago.
Who puts pressure on players like that, like for them to feel that? Is it just because of it's the nature of the sport, like you said, that they don't have skills to deal with that yet?
Well, it's such a gladiatorial sport, right? Like there's two. Here are the cannonballs. Go out there, sort it out, limit who wins, and the other guy goes home. So it's like, okay, I just want. Some of them just grew up just hitting a ball really well. Now all of a sudden they're like, well, I want to like to compete. Competing's fun. I want to be able to do that. But it takes such enormous toll on you, and you lose 3 or 4 matches in a row. You lose to someone that you used to beat before. You're like, how the kids develop at certain rates at different times, and like, I'm really good when I'm 12 and I'm the king of the mountain, and then 4 years later I'm losing to everybody. So how do you deal with all that? And it's tough. It's a tough sport. And it's a sport where you're sent out. We know you spent out there, and there's no coaching. You said go play. Yeah. I mean, there's small changes in that direction now, but you're out there. You go solve the problem, and there's something genuine about that. I get that, and you learn skills with that. But you're on your own. What other sport are we doing that to the athlete, to the young athlete?
And you are your own umpire too. Which it's the only sport in the world where the athletes are the referees as well.
Yeah, exactly.
To think about that,
So true. So
Yeah.
true.
Do you find coaches put pressure on players too?
Sure. Okay, I get everybody can, right? It depends on your words you choose, how you set things up, and yeah, there's no doubt that's part of it. Parents, obviously,
Yeah.
coaches can help to be, if you put yourself in the right place, you can be the one who can be truly have the great connection with the athlete. Yeah, there's no question that they can make it or break it. I'm always reminded of the countless kids that I've had on the tennis court with me at any one time. They'll come up to me after the fact. They finish playing whatever, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, thank you very much. I remember when I was 12, you told me," and I'm holding on like this, like, "What? My goodness, what did I say?"
Yeah.
And if I don't, was it wonderful or was it tragic? I don't know. Like what? And so it makes me skip. It makes me feel like every single time I'm on the court, anything that comes out of my mouth at any one time with any athlete is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I got to be super careful. Got to think about it ahead of time, not be reactive, and make sure that the message I need to deliver is done with an element of compassion and support and all those things that help the human being.
Yeah, that's the experience right there, because I remember myself as a younger coach, and like things that I was, doing and saying is just like, so a lot of it is like, again, emotional, right? So it's like, obviously for them to get better, it's with good kind of heart in mind, but it's just like, that's why with age, I guess people are becoming more patient. They're becoming more empathic, and just kind of what you were saying. I think that's a great advice for any coach, and I'm so happy you said that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah, it's not like I'm not saying you can't have like a raw, intense session and you're yelling and all that kind of stuff, but like once it's done, it's like, man, that was hard, wasn't it? That was really tough. Let's go take a break. Come back in tomorrow. We'll try again. It's all good.
What about parents? Do you have any advice for parents to reduce pressure, to help reduce pressure for their kid?
As a parent myself, who has kids who've gone through it, yeah, super powerful role you have, obviously. I think it's nice to be able to say things like, "Mom, Dad, your job is just support and stay out of it," and coach with this kind of stuff. But they're not going to do that. They'll do it to a degree, but they just can't help themselves. They're parents, and just to be in line with what the coaches are doing. The coach communicates what the plan is, what the message is, where we're going, why we're doing what we're doing, and if you can just support at home these things, and these are going to be really important. Your job. I think a lot of them just need a job. And you just assign them a job, give them a task, give them something to do, make them feel like they're part of the team, and then they can feel like they can actually contribute when you're not necessarily with them on the court or off the court. So the joke is the 20-minute on the ride home from practice or after the match can make or break it.
Yeah.
And no matter what message coaches are downloading in such a wonderful, structured way, and it's with a lot of thought, a lot of long-term vision, all that kind of stuff, it can be killed in 20 minutes.
Oh yeah. Parents. I remember Tyler Prescott actually was always telling me this when I was working with him, that parents' message is the one that the kid wakes up with, and the one that goes to bed with. So their messages will be more powerful. And I always experienced that when we took kids on a trip to Europe, to whatever, like on a tour for 3 weeks, 1 month, and then because you're around them the whole time, and you could see how the message that you send to the kids, it shapes them big time. Yeah. From the point that they start to love making their own breakfast, to like how they get used to stretching, how they understand the importance, and then when they come home, I would see sometimes they kind of like fall back in their own routine, and then everything kind of just disappears a little bit, right? So that's so powerful, again, that what you mentioned. So
those tours that you guys do with those kids is so good, so powerful, so meaningful for the kids. They're lifetime memories, and they learn so much. And you bring back a kid back to the parents, a kid who's more independent, more likely to do his own laundry. I don't. They're going to go home and not do it. I get that, but they could. They know how to do it now. Like they're doing it
That's
on the
right.
road. Like
That's right.
it's very cool.
Yeah. Speaking of memories, it's always, entertaining to ask like, hey, what do you remember? Like I would talk to the players, hey, what do you guys remember from the tour? And players won matches, they battled, we did such hard fitness, we trained a lot, and they would say, oh my God, the biggest pool in Europe, we went there, and it's like unbelievable that, like, so they remember the fun stuff, they remember like the off court, the kids stuff. So that's just to your point that we have to help them reduce that stress and like let them be a kid. So that's
Yeah. I thought Andre Lavelle was always amazing at that, right?
Oh.
Like, I think you did tours with Andre. So
Yes.
Andre's like we're going to Italy, we're going to Germany, we're going to France, and we're going to see Italy, Germany, and France.
Yeah.
We're going to work our ass
Yes.
off on the tennis court. We're
That's
gonna
right.
go see-
But
we're
we're
gonna go
we are gonna have a day when we actually go and experience the country, the city we're in. Yeah, he's great. I had an interview with him right before you. So yeah. So for everybody's watching, if you guys haven't checked that out, please check it out. It's really fun. Okay, so we talked about player for human first. So we're gonna talk about athlete. So what do you put in that, and why is it so much important to you?
Because again, 20 years ago, I'd be like, make sure you do your fitness. Let's go. That would be, I'd send, go. It would be done elsewhere, what have you. But now, like, you seeing so many kids go through this, you see and you realize how much more physical literacy the kids need
Yeah.
to become where they need to go. I'm not talking about push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. Like, they really need to know their stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like you have to build a body that will stand up to the rigors of training, the rigors of competition, the rigors of minimizing injury, all those things, and it's so much more a priority now, more
Yeah.
than it is
At a younger age as well. So it's
At-
not like you
at-
have to be good at 15. No, you have to be good at 9 and 8.
Yeah,
Like
and you
at
need
some
to
base.
you need to know why you're doing the things you're doing.
Yeah.
To my point about physical, like, you need to have some smarts on it. You just can't be mindless and get in there with the gym. And there's a lot of great people out there who do great work, and they do good jobs of passing on the message, like, why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Why, like, every single muscle in your core. Everyone goes core. Okay, I'll do some sit-ups. I get core. Like, every muscle between the tops of your knees to like your belly button, like everything in there, and all those complex all need to be taken care of, so you can do what you need to do, and you can move on a tennis court, and you can compete, and you can. You think about it, it's like tennis. Like, I'm going to explode there really fast for a few steps, decelerate, stabilize, execute a skill, recover again, explode.
While tracking the ball and analyzing my opponent.
While tracking a stimulus, figuring out what my opponent's doing. That's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff before you start hitting the tennis ball. So that's huge. And as you know, they become 14, 15, 16 on you go. Now you're spending as much, if not more, time in the gym than you are on the tennis court.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's huge. It's, again, for everybody listening, if you guys are still overspending time on court, like it's so important. Like, it's just impossible to continue improving unless you're committing to physical exercises, and not just fitness, like you were saying, for the sake of fitness. It has to be dedicated fitness with the person who knows tennis, and it's improved so much over the years. And finally, tennis player. We got to the bottom of the pyramid. so what is it important? Like, what do you put in that word? What's important for you when you're talking about developing a tennis player?
Well, there's the skills of executing, hitting a ball, and there's a mirage of those skills, right? Like, I always have this saying I have with all my players, that I say, hey, someone's going to come up to you and ask you, hey, man, you hit your forehand so well. Can you please show me your forehand? And your answer, it better be like, well, which one? Which one do you need to see? I need more information. I have so many different forehands. I got an attacking forehand. I got a defensive forehand, a countering forehand. I got a forehand I hit with slice. I got a forehand. Like, what you have, that's just the forehand. So the technical skills is all those things, as you can appreciate, that need to be mastered, if you like. But then there's maybe the more important part is like the tennis player. You got to know how to play.
Yeah.
And you got to know how to compete, and you got to know how to solve problems, and you got to know that's the tennis player part. So that comes with playing a bunch of matches, solving problems, figuring it out,
Yes.
and truly playing the game of tennis and not just hitting tennis balls. Because there's a lot of great ball strikers out there that cannot beat anybody because they don't find ways to solve problems. They aren't really out there to disrupt their opponent on the other side, or like they feel like they're the most important person on the court, where they're actually the most important person on the court is probably on the other side of the net, and that's what you need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And then figure out how you're going to disrupt that. So that's the tennis player part.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually shocking to me too, because I see a lot of kids like, coming, going, and a lot of kids these days, they don't know how to play, which is shocking to me, because you would think, because they're spending a lot of time on the court. I think these days, like I'm talking about committed kids, like who really want to achieve like winning nationals and going international. Like they're spending a lot of time on court, but yet they're lacking, in some cases, basic tactical knowledge. But they're spending like, 12, 14, 16 hours on court. So it's weird to me, Like, so it's like what you say, like, yes, we need to play matches. Like, so, like, I'm just confused how come we're not playing more matches, like in general.
Yeah, well, we have a we're walking straight into the biggest issue we have here in Canada, Southern Ontario, and in our world. We had a scenario where we had so much access to competition for all different kind of kids at every level, and now all of a sudden it's gone, and we have a big problem on our hands.
What can we do without it? With this, what do you have any solutions?
Oh my gosh, if I had the solution. I mean, clubs aren't hosting tournaments like they were before, because remember, there's more people playing tennis. There's more, they're less likely to give up courts. They used to routinely give up courts on weekends when there was not a lot of activity. Now they can sell their court time to members. There's summer's not as bad, but the winter we're getting killed. And
winter is brutal.
It's about trying to like get better kids together more often. I know Tennis Canada is trying to help with that regard at the center, use those courts more, try to get some match play going, different levels of kids to get out there and play and compete, because the matches are so important. We can't have kids that are in the consolidating stage of development or earlier, and they're playing 20 matches a year. Like that's like there needs to be triple that. And we're it's such a struggle to get that number up, and I wish I knew the solution, and I feel bad for the kids that got into the sport later, like the kids that get in later, maybe 14 or 15, that really get into it, and they go and they're like, where's my tournament? And there's nothing.
There's nothing. Yeah, exactly, because you have like 300 kids signing up for transition tour who are like top rated in the province, because they just want to play.
Yeah, I mean, as long as look, there's a lot of smart people around at the OTA and Tennis Canada, but we got to find a way to get more matches for kids somehow. We're getting killed.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't, and even 17 under 18 players, same thing. Then go to the pro level, where we have like it's just we're short everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just such a struggle. So then everyone's forced to leave.
Yeah,
and I get why you leave.
No, 100%. That's another reason why people are considering like States and Europe, and one of many reasons, of course. This is not the only one, but I think the WTN matches and UTR matches, they're somewhat like a micro solution to that, because they still get a chance to play somewhat of a competitive matches that kind of matter, because everybody's obsessed with those numbers, so it puts a bit of pressure, and simulates the real environment. But I'm just wondering, like, how come there is no... And that's not a question for you, really, but I'm just, like, discussing it with you. So why are we not...
be so obsessed with that number, by the way?
What's that?
What? Can we not be so obsessed with that number?
Yeah, please, first of all. Yeah, exactly. I know.
When this thing came along, and I was like, this is kind of an interesting tool. This is really kind of good. But then it's like, wait a minute. Everybody makes every single decision they ever make in their life going forward based on this number.
Oh, yeah.
People
would not go on the court with you if your ex number because you're more than 0.9 different of my child. So it's like, what are we doing here? It's like,
Yeah.
come on. But I was gonna say, like, how come we're not hosting tournaments at the Sobeys Center? Like, it's pretty much empty, no, during the weekend. How come there's not a single?
I think that's something we need to invest and look at it more for
Yeah.
sure. There's gonna be times when there's courts I mean, there's times when courts are not necessarily booked there, but it's not like the sweetest times. It might be some evenings, it might be early in the mornings. I don't really know, but it's tough in the winter time to walk in a facility with 8 courts and not all the courts are being used, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we find a way to use these? I mean,
Yeah.
kids would come play matches before school.
Yeah.
Kids would come play matches, but awkward times in the evenings. Like they're starving for it. Like they'll
Oh,
come.
100%. That there's gonna be we just have to find a way. Exactly.
Yeah. So hopefully we can keep moving in that direction.
Hopefully. So, thank you for sharing about in terms of your philosophy, and we walked through in quite a bit of a detail on those things. What are the qualities of the player, of high performance player, that you think they're so paramount to become, your Catherine, your Bianca, your Kayla, and your top level player?
I think you have to be able to deal with adversity really well.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be able to deal with failure really well. There's a great David Wells, who's a sports psychologist or a performance psychologist for the Canadian Olympic team. He's had a great quote about there's 2 things that an athlete needs, or 2 things athletes need to almost guarantee that they'll succeed. Number 1, show up, and number 2, fail more than some of the other athletes, and you'll get there faster. Mm-hmm. And it's like we don't, failure is seen as like being so tragic. Yeah. We're a gladiatorial sport, as I said, and you fail and you say, I can't. Like, well, like we learned a lot, didn't we? Let's go. And if you can really package it that way and be mature about it, and I'm not discounting the upset and the emotional challenges of like I lost him, I get that, but like you put it into perspective and you can deal with it and move on and build, and that would be super super helpful. And in a high performance player, like you're gonna need to be able to do that.
How do you develop that on a daily basis?
Well, I think it's we have this model, as you know, in the Coach 3 course about training mentality, and it's around performing, competing, and being focused. And the performing ones and the competing ones are things that just always need to have an element of your practice. It like keep score for everything. Mm-hmm. Keep score, and so you're always on edge all the time. You never feel a little safe. You never because it's a tennis match. It's the same way. Just play. If you're going to play a little game of this, it's a game to 5, it's a game to 7, game to whatever. These are parameters. We're going to compete with. We're going to work in the skill, but we're going to always keep score. We're always going to have something on the line, and then you get a little bit more like you're used to dealing with that stuff, rather than having those practices, which are the feel-good practices. I hit the ball great. It was so good. I'm going to beat the guy I play next, and you haven't really learned how to rise to the occasion, dig deep, fight hard in a tough part of a match, all those things which you learn. And that's, as you said earlier, that's about what being a tennis player is.
Yeah,
right?
100%. No, you're right. I want to talk about, still on the topic of high performance, private clubs. We mentioned it about this a little bit earlier. That I see personally like a big shift in the mindset and the philosophy and the values of the private clubs, shifting towards developing their own high performance programs. Like I've seen it first with cricket. Like they have a very strong high performance program. Like Boulevard is trying to do. Is Toronto Lawn having any high performance programs, or is it in the works? Is it in the plan? If you can talk about it, of course.
Yeah, I feel like private clubs, and I'll speak for the Lawn, obviously. It's always in ebbs and flows of your membership, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's not, private clubs are not like you're just coming in off the street and you're joining as a junior. Your family's a member, and you may or may not have a passion for tennis as a child, and let's say you do, and you get into it and you get going, and then you have a critical group of kids that you want to work with. And we've had different, over my 34 years, I'm trying to think, in 34 years, it's probably been I just did something about a few months ago about this. We have 27 or 28 players, members who ended up playing NCAA Division I tennis in that time period, but they weren't necessarily all together at the same time. You end up sort of customizing what you do based on who you have. So, and there's a little bit of interest in like bringing in some kids from outside to help to foster an environment, because you need to create an environment. But it's not always ideal, because you're taking away maybe a spot from someone who's a member, and it's having them come at a time when the courts are really busy is tough. And so now you're doing it at 6 a.m. So we do it at 6 a.m. here. And the other private clubs will be doing the same thing. Like you've got to work around what your membership want. They want their courts whenever they want them, and if the juniors want to come, they can have the courts at those times. You need to be able to, within your club, take care of your athletes as best you possibly can. Having said that, I will say there comes a time when you can't provide 14 hours of tennis a week for 4 kids that you have that actually boy, girl, different age, all that kind of stuff. And now it's like it's just tough to pull it off. So you almost need to do that in concert with someone else or another facility, and try to make the add up the hours so they get what they need. We've done it through working with other programs, early coming in the morning. From my first years here, when it was Vanessa Webb, there's a name from the past, you probably don't know Vanessa. Vanessa was NCAA Division I champion, played at Duke University. Coached her for a few years here, played and traveled on tour with her for a few years, and she grew up here at the club, and she got some of her training here, but she had to get it elsewhere at some point. It's just sort of like you have to find a way to make that all happen. So that's the private club challenge. I mean, it doesn't end. It's tough for a private club to be a one-stop shop for the athlete, like an academy can be.
Yeah.
You can get it all done in one spot for the most part. Even that starts to become something where there's some sharing is needed, and getting kids together for match play and whatnot. That's
because private clubs have the best facilities, to do that. Like you would think, right? Like they have the best facilities to develop the world-class player, because they have, like fantastic everything. You got everything.
And you have a membership that really covered their courts.
That's right.
They're really like, I'd like my court when I'd like my court.
That's right.
So they're not always open to having kids who aren't members of the club. That will be a challenge. But if you carefully do it outside of the times when they want to play, they're more likely to allow that to happen. No question.
I have a question for you. Would you say it would change if it was a very strong direction of the club? Like if that was like the vision of the club, we really believe in our juniors, for example, I don't know, and kind of you would make some work with your members, like explaining them and advertising and rationalizing why is this important. Would you think that would change, or that's just typically like a private club environment? That's just, it's always been kind of like that. I'm not talking about Toronto Lawn, but in general, like about the private club kind of structure. And
well, I can speak to the makeup of a membership here would be similar to the Granite Club that we're talking about Toronto, and this is unique to Toronto too, because there's no such animal as a private club in Quebec.
Yeah.
But they do have them out west. It's difficult because you have a membership that really, it's not cheap to join these places now.
That's true.
And they want their courts when they want them, and so
rightfully so.
Bringing in a bunch to create a high performance training environment. I'm not going to disrespect anybody with this. Like, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of time and effort and energy from great coaches, yes, but then you need the resources, as in you need court time, which is, interesting enough, a challenge at a private club, because from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, members want their courts.
Yeah.
And you then are you need to create an environment of bringing in other athletes from outside the private club to create that environment. You won't, I can cite, just thinking of the kids we may have here now, which wouldn't be no different than, say, being in any other private club. You may have one girl who's really good under 12, really good. Then we have one boy under 14 who's really strong. We have about 3 or 4 boys under 16, under 18, but the levels are a little bit different. So that's like, I can name, say, 8 to 10 kids or members of the club that play OTA, 3-star and our higher events, but they can't all practice with each other. So then I got to bring in other people to practice with them, and now I'm upsetting the apple cart.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. Unless we're doing it at 6 o'clock in the morning, which is kind of what we do. No one's really fighting for a court at 6 o'clock, so we go on for court for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then we're fine. But 4 to 7, in that prime window, and like maybe some of them will come out and get out of school early, but a lot of them at private clubs are going to a private school too, and they're not getting out of school to go practice at 2 o'clock very easily. And so then they say goodbye to that, but then they say goodbye to that, and then there's lots of small little hurdles that need to be navigated in that.
100%.
I mean, one thing I do think the private clubs can do a lot better job of is hosting junior tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to our original conversation, we're part of a conversation about, like, we need more matches and more tournaments. Host a couple more tournaments, like in the wintertime, which is on our agenda for the next 6 months. We want to be able to do that at different levels. That's great. No, and you guys do a good job. You're hosting a big tournament in the winter, one of the selections, I believe. Most selections, as well as the cricket. Yeah, we've always done that. Cricket hosts one, And we just need to probably add a few more in there for different levels and different age groups, for sure. That's
great. And I think, like, for tournaments, it's a better sell. It's easier sell, I guess, because you get to see good juniors. Like, it's an entertainment. It can be sold, I guess, as an entertainment for members, because I know at a summer club we host an open tournament where, really good, like, some university players come, and then, like, just great, like, adults. And members don't complain for that, because we do breakfast for them. Like, we like, set up our chairs and they watch. They love it. Like, it's just a little, like, week to hang out instead of playing tennis. They get to watch tennis, discuss tennis. So it's I guess an easier sell for the club.
Well, we'll host this, like, as will the granite, the cricket, and at the end of August we host the senior nationals for a week. Okay, good on us, great thing. Members are loving it, just like you described. But then there's a bunch of members who go, like, what are we doing? Why do I not get a court this afternoon?
That's true. No, you're right. They have their routine, and they just want to. That's true. That's true. And again, like, we can understand all of those people too.
For sure.
Simon, you are not just, again, a coach. You're also a dad, and you're a tennis dad, because your son plays at a pretty high level. And I want to just talk to you a little bit about what it was like. The 20
minutes in the car ride home.
So because you were giving us advices on how to be a great parent and all that stuff, but it's time to actually talk to you as a parent. And maybe you can share some of the struggles, and maybe you can talk a little bit about. Maybe let's start. Like, did you coach William at all? Were you involved a lot in his development?
For sure. Best story about being the coach talking to the parent about how they should behave was when I was really young. I was, like, trying to be like the really good coach. I'm speaking to these parents about, so this is like 30 years ago, and I'm talking to these parents about how they should best be. Like, in my experience as a parent, you should be just positive and really be supportive. That's the best thing you can possibly do. And the parent would sit there and go, "Excuse me, what experience do you have?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't have any experience being a parent." So how was that going to? I totally, like, what am I doing? Telling a parent how to behave when I have no idea what they're going through, until you become one yourself. And then to move to your question. Yes, I was always involved with William, and he played hockey and played other sports as well, and then decided I want to do this tennis thing. I'm like, okay. I pushed him into golf as much as I possibly could because I knew that if it was tennis, then I would be spending more of my free time on tennis courts. And so,
So you were very strategic about it. You wanted to spend most of your time on the golf
in my motivation.
course.
But no, we're gonna go tennis. I'm, okay, we're gonna play tennis. And and yeah, so he jumped in with both feet, and it's a great journey. Still on that journey.
Yeah.
So it's and it is a journey. And all I will say is it's really difficult to do both things and be like because he's gonna hear. William, can you take out the trash? William, can you please make your bed? William, can you please prepare earlier on your forehand? From the same guy,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, it's like at some point, it's just like the same. It's like, oh my God, this is just white noise now.
That's it.
I'm not taking out the trash. I'm not preparing earlier on my forehand. Like, it's like, and then so it's really been helpful to have people. Even you really helped him out, and and Nikolai helped, and others have helped, and Ibule helps, and like just so many people who Adriano, others. I'm just trying to rattle off people off the top of my head, who've been on the court with him, and it's please help, because he'll listen to you, like he really will, really will. And so being that way that's been always super helpful. More messaging, more. I mean, it's the same message essentially. Everyone says the same thing. It's great. It's fantastic. It's more powerful.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this about the emotions of being a tennis parent. When the kids are really young and you're watching them go on the court getting cheated, when you're watching them go on the court not being able to handle a situation which is easily manageable, but they don't have the skills for it. I'm going back to the very beginning here. Like that's frustrating. That's frustrating. Now it's like they've got all this. They can figure that out. They're capable now. They're competent now. They're good to go. And you don't stress about it anywhere near the same way.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't work? Maybe you can share some things that you know for sure as a parent. And especially like when your child is in tennis, like, okay, parents do not do these things. Like I tried, doesn't work.
You know what? I think there's so many things. I think I think as a parent, you always, and I'm just speaking of every parent, you always second guess stuff all the time. I have a younger son as well, Sebastian, who's playing at 18th selection this weekend, and he's not at the same level of commitment nearly that William was at all, but loves the sport, loves to play, all that stuff. And you're always like trying to make, okay, and I don't speak to him the same way I speak to William. Like they're just different. It's amazing they came from the same parents, but they receive it very differently. And that's only because of my world of coaching do I know that that's actually super important to recognize that. But like I'm always reminded of how you will communicate differently to even your two kids.
It just speaks to that you're truly living your philosophy, and you just mentioned the human first aspect.
Yeah. Like they're so different. It's remarkable. But I don't know any. I'm almost scared to. I feel like they're pumping down a list of things. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. I would say more than anything else. Expectation from parents is toxic, and demanding results is a really bad thing. And I will say this to the journey of any athlete and of all the athletes that I've had a chance to work with, and this might be universal for everybody. I don't think we give good young tennis players a long enough runway to get there.
Yeah.
I just don't think we do. It's not an easy sport to transition from being high-level junior to high-level college tennis to high-level pro. It's or you go from high-level junior to transitioning to pro tennis. It's like you need a long runway, and it's just some people just aren't prepared to go along that runway.
Even to go through puberty, like from going like U12 to like transitioning to U14. It's like it's tough for kids. Like their body's changing. They're being like all of a sudden like less coordinated. Like they're getting used to their body every single week. So it's just even that part. I mean, it's of course it's not as difficult as transitioning to pro, but like little things like this, I think we should recognize those.
Like you have athletes that have transitioned to pros. Like when does the brain start developing? 23 or something like that. Like like we're so many are calling it quits before they even get there. It's like you haven't even finished like developing yet. You don't even know what you got yet.
Yeah.
And you know perfectly well, seeing athletes move to where they need to be. It's not like he's going to hit the ball any better. He's just going to figure out how to play better.
Yeah.
Like you said, like they don't know how to really play. Like they need to play a bunch of matches to figure out how to play the game.
Who they are, figure out who they are.
Yeah, know what's important and what's not important. You keep on, putting this thing into this category. If I don't have to worry about this, but this is this is now important. So you don't waste any energy over here, and you're focusing on these things. These things actually do help me to perform better. Thinking this way helps me to perform better. If I get help in this area, I can see that I can improve so much more. So yeah, those are things that you figure out. Like it's on that trip.
Yeah.
I'll take Kayla as a great example. Kayla's like world-class junior, transitioning to the tour, and she just needs time.
Yeah.
And they all need time. All those good girls and good guys who are transitioning, just give them. They need to give themselves time more than anything else. They need to give themselves time. Otherwise, they're like, it's so easy to say no. It's too tough. It's too tough. I can't do this anymore. I just lost again. I can't. It's so easy to question yourself and doubt yourself. But if you have a plan, and you have a mission, you got some great people in your corner. There's no telling when you're going to get there.
Yeah. Okay. So the message is to basically stay patient, believe in your people, believe in yourself, just believe, and stay patient. That's great. Simon, moving on, I want to touch on you as being a mentor to other coaches, and you've had so many coaches that learned from you and that moved on and to high positions at other clubs. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how do you develop your team and how do you develop coaches around you? Like what's important for you?
Yeah, everyone always brings up this wonderful thing that everyone leaves me.
So that's how you look at it.
I don't know if it's that wonderful. I will just go back to my Ari Novik, Pierre Lamarche, Louis Caillé, even with the coaching circuit, Larry Jurovich, like people who great tennis people who I've had the chance to spend a lot of time. Andre Lavelle. I mean, I'm going on. And I just kind of take that and kind of go, okay, well, how would this group work with their people and how they mentor, let them grow, give them opportunities. I'll say again, I've been lucky. I've had really good people, and they all have a passion. Maybe I was lucky because I picked the right people. I don't know, but they all had a great passion. I tried as much as possible to stay out of their way. I had a conversation, which by saying this, I'm probably not doing this, with my group just last week, and I said, like, I want to make sure that if I'm micromanaging, I need to know about it, but I think I'm exactly the opposite of that, maybe to a fault, because I really want them to do it their way, so that they have the opportunity to do it, so they run the event, or they run the league, or they do it the way they want to do it. And I'm happy to help them write an email or an ugly email or whatever needs to be done, or help with certain problems or challenges. I feel like I've seen everything, although having said that, I know there'll be something that comes up next week.
Yes, right.
But I really try to feel like there's an element of they need autonomy, and just go empower them and give them something they do, and then they're super comfortable when they go somewhere else and have opportunity to go somewhere else. So yeah, I've actually done that. I've done that, and we don't have in this room here. You can see this looks like a pro's office. In this room here, we are all kind of together. We're always sharing stuff all the time, and we don't have a tennis administrator. Like a lot of clubs have like a tennis administrator person. Like we're all it. Mm-hmm. We just divvy it all up between us all, and we all are doing that. So we get to learn all those skills, those intangibles that you need to learn to become a good tennis professional, and you can move into positions of leadership comfortably because you've done that before. So that's kind of the way we kind of do things here.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's great, and I'm sure people.
And hopefully someone will leave again.
to another high level position. Listen, like
for them.
When you're hiring somebody, like what are the things that you're looking for What's more important to you, I guess? What are the priorities?
This goes back to the conversation I had with Larry Jervich a long time ago. He'll never remember this, but it's like what you do, what you know, and who you are. And the first two I don't really care much about. So I try to learn more about who the person is, and that is a little bit more about where I find good people. And I have not in I don't know how many years, 20, I guess more than that now, because I'm just thinking, I've been here 34 years. It's been a long time, maybe close to 30 years since I've actually posted a job here.
Oh, wow.
Because I feel like I haven't know everybody and know who's really good. And it's not that I just have a conversation with someone, or I'm doing the coaching certification course and I come across someone who's looking for something and they feel like they're a good person, and I kind of, hey, would you be interested? And then just kind of form a relationship and kind of go from there. And that's how it's kind of worked.
Yeah.
And I've had, like, they've been good people, just really good people. That's first and foremost. That's really important to me.
Nice. So again, it comes back to being human first. So, Simon, I really thank you for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure, like, I know I did, but I'm sure, like, all the viewers, all the listeners, like, they got, a great sense how humble you are, yet how knowledgeable you are, and just they got to know you a little bit more. And it's been a great conversation to have. Thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thanks for prompting. That was great, Bogdan. Thanks for doing this.
Awesome. All right, so